Peace and love, everyone. Peace and love, peace and love. We are back for episode 3 of The Truth of the Matter 5-part series podcast, where we are talking about everything, for the most part, everything mortgages. I am Ready Nation Trust, and I have a special guest with me for the series, Money Matters.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Peace and love.
Thank you to you all for sticking with us. Do me a favor as you come into the room, just let us know how our audio is doing. Put a one in the chat. As you come into the room, we'd also request that you like, subscribe, and share the video out to anyone that you think this information will be beneficial. We are always wanting to share good quality information with our audience to just give you all a sense of what is going on and help to build on the knowledge base that you already have. Or if you are new to this type of information, just sort of, wake you up and open your eyes and shake you up a little to get you thinking about things that are going on out there, because things are not the way that it seems, right? A lot of people, even in 2024, are still walking around with blinders on, and it's so vexing to know that in the age of information and technology and enlightening, that people still have no clue of what's going on. So let's do this first. We got 2 questions from our last episode that we want to go ahead and answer from episode 2. And then we'll get going with today's episode. All right. All right. So the first question is the second escrow account tied to the MERS account number? The MERS account number. Um, let's do this. Let's go with the definition of what MERS actually is so that people will have an understanding of why that system was created, right? So MERS stands for the Mortgage Electronic Registration System. All right, it's a database that was created by the mortgage industry. It's a confidential electronic registry of mortgages that has originated in the United States, right? So this definition you can look up on Google. It's public information, right? It keeps track of transfers and modifications to servicing rights and ownership of loans. And it's used by the real estate finance industry for residential and commercial mortgage loan trading. All right. So essentially, what happens is each time a mortgage is sold from one bank to another, that's considered an assignment. And so, where MERS comes in is MERS creates the document showing that the mortgage had been transferred. All right. So theoretically, it takes the place of the paperwork that the bank is supposed to file with the county upon assignment of your mortgage, right? And so, after you go to the closing table, a lot of the times your mortgage is sold before you even make the first mortgage payment, right? And every time it's sold, there's some sort of monetization process that takes place. But MERS essentially manages that process. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, based on the question, and you can read that question back because I just want to break it down for everybody so that they understand where I'm coming from when I answer this question.
Okay, so the question is the second escrow account tied to the MERS account number?
Okay, so this is what you want to really understand about that. Um, if you have an account, I'm going to use just we're going to look at this from a common sense perspective. If you have an account and that account is, say that account has $10 million in it, anybody that's tied to that account now has an interest in that account. So if you have $10 million in your account, do you want to put 10 strangers, their names or their accounts on that account with you? Because then they have an interest in your $10 million. And see, we're dealing with financial institutions, lenders who are very greedy. So they would never put anyone else's number, tie anybody else connected to their accounts, because then they have a valid legal interest in that account.
Mm.
And because of that, only number they're going to put on there is a number tied to the loan. That's why if you were to file bankruptcy, bankruptcy When they pull the loan number, they're going to see all the escrow accounts. They're going to see every account tied to the loan.
Mm.
And it has nothing to do with MERS or anything of that nature. But they don't, as I mentioned, if you heard before, they don't put your social security number on there. Why? Because that creates a taxable event, and they don't want that because they're evading taxes.
Mm-mm-mm.
So that's the reason why it would never have anyone else's number on there, because then they have an interest in that account. So I hope that makes sense for you.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, and that's deeper than what most people will even think. Wow. Yeah, that's the answer that people really need to hear. Thank you for that.
Yes.
That's deep. That's so deep. Second question. All right. Second question. And thank you all for coming back to episode 2 and the previous episode with your questions. We really do appreciate it. The second question is this: if we are not in the right capacity for an older account, and I'm assuming they're asking about an older mortgage, if it says if we are not in the right capacity for an older more account, did we essentially forfeit or give away the money?
Two things I want to mention here that's going to be very important. First one is full disclosure. Full disclosure. Was it disclosed to you that there was an account? Was it ever disclosed to you that there was some type of additional benefit on the table for you? No, it wasn't. It was not full disclosure. Now, at the same time, from their perspective, think about this. There's two different perspectives here on the table, at least three. Let's look at the lender's perspective. It's not our job to educate you. And if we educate you, then you may benefit a considerable amount at the closing. So we're not going to do that. You got to figure it out on your own. So they want to lean on the lender because they're greedy. They want to lean on the fact that you signed a blank endorsement and you abandoned any funds from an older account. But that still falls under what? Fraud. So you have an opportunity to go back to any account from the age of 18 up until now and claim your interest in that transaction because of fraud and because of they didn't disclose it to you. It wasn't full disclosure. Those two reasons right there allow you to go back to those accounts. But of course, if you're going to go back to those accounts, you got to be prepared. You got to be equipped in order to go back and claim what is rightfully yours. But see, you're not equipped to go back and claim what is rightfully yours. Yes, we talk about time traveling, and that is something that a lot of people do. They know how to time travel. So you can go back in time to an account if you are equipped and prepared to do that. And that's something we can definitely, share with you and show you um, off the call, off the episode today, podcast. But
Mhm.
that's something we were doing in private. So we can
Right.
privately have that discussion, and we can educate you deeper if you're trying to go back and claim what is rightfully yours. Because anytime you put your signature on a document, you have an interest in that account.
Yes.
There's interest that belongs to you on the table. You just never claimed it. They say you abandoned it, and they're going to tell the IRS that you abandoned it.
Hmm.
And let me say this. If you were to find $50,000, you went to the city and said, I found this money and I don't know whose it is, they're going to try to find the owner. They'll place ads for 30 days. If no one claims it in 30 days, guess what? That means they abandoned it, and you get to keep that $50,000, no tax free. You get to keep it. And so the lender knows this rule. They know this law. And so they will tell the IRS that you abandoned that money. Now, abandoned money doesn't mean that you have to pay tax on it. So they claim that you abandoned the money. That way they get to keep it tax free.
Mm. That's diabolical.
Evil and diabolical.
Diabolical.
But you positioned yourself to lose in this transaction. And
Mm-hmm.
they positioned themselves to win 3 times. That means that they know scripture better than you do,
Mm.
because that falls under a scripture, Jeremiah 29:11. When you understand Jeremiah 29:11, it's all about winning or losing.
That's good.
That's what that scripture is all about. What does that mean? That means every decision that you make, you're either going to win or lose, but it's going to be 3 wins or 3 losses, or a combination of 2 wins and a loss, or 2 losses and a win. But you want to make a decision that's going to have you winning today, tomorrow, and in the future. So when you can do that, you're going to move in the right direction, and you have the Lord on your side. But if you're making a decision without God, you're going to suffer, and you're not going to win the way you would like to, because you see a win today, but you miss the win tomorrow, and you miss the win in the future. So you win today, you lose tomorrow, and you lose down the road in the future as well.
Mm, mm, mm.
And financially, you lose a considerable amount. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. And you lose millions because of the decision you made today.
And that's literal. Literal millions.
Literal millions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they made millions off of you. And what you got? A 30-year debt.
And the house.
Now, the
That
house is the perk.
the house is the perk.
Think about it. If you have a membership, at the gym and you go to work out, they give you hot towels. Hot towels is a perk because you got a membership, because you signed a contract agreement with the gym, a membership agreement. The membership agreement is the money. The towels is the perk. So at the closing, you buy a house. The promissory note is the money. The house is a perk. It's just a perk, because the money is a lot more than what that house will ever be worth. That house would never be worth $20 million.
Right.
That contract, that promissory note is worth $20 million or more. But the house will never be worth $1 million. If you bought a $300,000 house, it's not going to hit $1 million, and you're still paying a debt for 30 years.
What's so diabolical about it is that I know I said the house, but you don't really have the house. You don't have complete ownership of the house, right? Because you're still subject to the mortgage and you're subject to property taxes. Yeah, you have enjoyment and use of the house, but you don't really have ownership of the house because they can still come and take it if you don't do X, Y, and Z. All right. So you're enjoying the benefit of occupying the house. That is really the only perk that you have in a mortgage. Because think about it, you're spending money, you're paying a mortgage, and you're spending money for upkeep, um, maintenance, all of these things that comes along with quote unquote ownership. And then as soon as you fall behind, they can still come and foreclose on you. And then all of the money and the upkeep and the maintenance that you put into the house, you lose all of that if you do not claim the other side of that transaction. And so that's what we're speaking about, the other side of the transaction, the private side of the transaction, right? There is a whole nother world that exists outside of what you see on paper when you go to sign at the closing table. It's a whole nother world. And so you have to think about that. So how does this all tie into mortgages and bankruptcy? All right, mortgages and bankruptcy. So let's just sort of talk about this for a minute. Many people struggle with understanding what bankruptcy really is and what it does. All right. When you go to file a bankruptcy, there's two different types that you can file, based on your situation. It's either a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13. All right. Now, with the Chapter 7, and this is what I've seen because I've also worked in the bankruptcy department in corporate America years ago. This was years ago. So essentially, what happens with the bankruptcy is that you may have other debt that may be discharged as a part of the bankruptcy, but the mortgage debt is never really discharged, right? Because if you stop making your payments in a bankruptcy, they can still foreclose on you. All the bankruptcy does is it creates a stay from the creditors to move against you if you're behind on your payments. But you enter into some sort of reorganization type situation in terms of the mortgage payments. Now they may put your back payments in the bankruptcy, but you still have to continue on from a certain point and onward. And if you don't make those payments, they can still come back and foreclose on you. All right. So with the mortgage debt, you can't really file a bankruptcy and think that your mortgage debt is going to be forgiven. And I want you all to think about something. Anytime that you walk into a court and you file a court case, and this is a bankruptcy included, there is some type of monetization that is happening on that court case. It doesn't matter what type of case it is, bankruptcy, foreclosure, a speeding ticket, whatever the situation is, there's still monetization. And so when we're dealing with even thinking about filing any action in court as it relates to a mortgage, you have to think and know and understand everything that you have on the table to know how to maximize your benefit from that transaction. All right. It's not just to go in there because you're behind on your mortgage, there are other benefits there. All right. And so, he was telling me, and I think he mentioned this on last week's episode of something that he saw when he was a bankruptcy resolution specialist at a mortgage company as well. So did you want to share that story?
Well, the thing about working in the mortgage department, and you get to see a lot of what's going on, and you may not have a lot of clearance just working in mortgage. It's a basic clearance. It may be considered like classified. But as you get deeper into the mortgage departments, foreclosure and bankruptcy, that requires a higher security level.
Mhm.
So I didn't have just a classified security level. I didn't have just a private. I had a secret clearance, so I saw more. And in bankruptcy, you see everything. They don't
Mhm.
hide. You can't hide anything about the mortgage in bankruptcy.
Mhm.
So I had to go to Pacer. I had to pull up the bankruptcy. I had to make sure the person filed bankruptcy because most people file bankruptcy for one reason. They have so much debt, they're underwater, they don't know what else to do.
Yes.
That's a bad reason. That's a bad reason or wrong reason to file bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Or they're in foreclosure, they don't want to lose their house, and everybody says file bankruptcy, that stops it right away. But then you don't have a plan after that.
Yes.
So when I went into bankruptcy and I would look at these bankruptcies, I saw where people in bankruptcy would write all their debt down, their mortgage, car payment, credit card, everything is in there. And then the bankruptcy attorney is going to ask you, what is the credits? What credits are you going to put down here to pay off all your debt? Now, you might say, oh, I got a job. I make $80,000 a year. So I'm going to put that down and that's what I'm going to use to pay off the debt. That's the normal procedure. But those who know a little bit more know that there's certain documents that are so valuable, you can place them in place of your job and it will pay off all your debt. It'll pay off all your debt. You're not supposed to know about that.
Mhm.
And there's no one in your circle that's going to tell you this type of information because it's only on the private side of commerce.
Mhm.
So in order to be fully educated, you're going to have to bite the bullet. You're going to have to make a decision to move over to the private side to gain the knowledge that's going to help you resolve all your debt issues for the rest of your life. Not just one, but all of them. If you want to claim accounts from the past, you can do that as well. But of course, status is required.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we describe as working from the top down and not the bottom up. The bottom up is you're climbing a flight of stairs and you got this furniture that you got to get loaded up to the top of the steps. So you're climbing all of these steps, and you have this weight on your shoulders that you're trying to get up to the top of the stairs. And so you're moving slow, you're sluggish. You may take one item at a time to the top of the steps because you can't take it all up there at one time. You're taking one item at a time, one piece of furniture at a time to the top of the steps. Each piece of furniture that you're trying to get to the top of the steps represents an account that you have, the loan, the mortgage, the credit card, the whatever the situation is. You're trying to deal with that situation on an individual level, one by one, piece by piece, from the bottom up, instead of coming in from the top down with your status already in place, standing at the top of the stairs on your square with your authority, and whatever you do at the top of the stairs trickle down to the bottom, which is way more easier than trying to climb the mountain, right? And so this is the situation that we see out here. This is what we run into when we begin dealing with people and we realize that they're trying to do things without the proper status in place, right? Somebody dropped in the comment, they say, oh yeah, just go ahead and submit a 1099 OID. People, everybody in the world was doing 1099 OIDs. Did they have status? Likely not. They were coming in from the bottom up, trying to deal with each individual account, trying to submit a 1099 OID individually, or whatever the process was. It doesn't even matter. Secure party creditor, state national, American national, that is all bottom up stuff. That is a horizontal status that is equivalent to a United States citizen. The principles and the processes that we are working with on the private are vertical to that of the United States citizen, meaning that they are of a higher status. You got to hit it from a higher perspective. Has to be from a higher perspective. Dealing with the mortgages and all of this other stuff, we cannot continue to try to do these things as a United States citizen. It's going to be hit or miss. There's nothing consistent across the board. And because you don't have the proper protections, you may be thrown in jail.
Correct.
Right.
And there was a question. I want to read this question and I want to answer this question because
Yeah.
this question, if you've ever had a mortgage, you most likely went through this and you didn't understand why and what happened. The question is, why is it my original mortgage company, who allegedly gave my mortgage to a third party lender, is calling me saying I'm in default with them if they gave my mortgage to a third party lender? That's a deep question right there.
Mm-hmm.
Deep question. Because you have to understand, at the closing, you signed a lot of documents. Now, of course, at that closing, you gave them permission. You gave them permission to transfer your mortgage as many times as they wanted to. They could only do that because you gave them permission. That's why it's very important to actually know what you're signing before you go to sign it. That's why you need someone to walk you through a closing before you ever go to a closing. Because when you do go to a closing, the most important thing that you bring to the closing is your protection. And your protection is a trust. Keep that in mind. Your protection is a trust. Now, we mentioned this already on one of the previous podcasts, but I just wanted to kind of answer that question. And if the original mortgage company is contacting you, then yeah, there may be some debt on the table that they're trying to collect for you. Now, debt is a good thing because for them, that debt is a security. They love debt because you're paying the debt and they're securitizing the debt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's always going to be a win-win-win for them. It's a 3-win scenario, not a win-win. That is not good. That's bad. It's a 3-win scenario. Keep that in mind.
And one of the other things that just popped into my head with that question is that there is something that happens when a mortgage is transferred from one servicer to another. All right. That's a business transaction between those two financial institutions or companies, whatever you want to call it. And so there could potentially be an improper chain of title. There's a break in the chain somewhere that creates a a gap between the balances that was held at the previous servicer as opposed to what was transferred to the next. So there's a lot of uh, things that are done behind the scenes, and they fumble paperwork. They do fumble the paperwork sometimes, and they don't properly transfer things over. So when you have a situation where an account was transferred from one servicer to another, they're supposed to be giving you the documentation that shows that there was a proper chain of title from one servicer to another, right? And so, how do you even really know if they have the authority to step in as a servicer of your loan? There's so many different moving parts with that we have to consider, but that could potentially also be one of the reasons why you're getting the phone call, is because there was a gap. There's some sort of gap, financial gap, that exists
Mm-hmm.
from one servicer to another.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answers your question. There's another question in here that I wanted to address in terms of it's not really a question, it's more so of a statement. It says only businesses can file a 1099, not individuals. I don't know why that type of information will be circulating out there where people can say that only businesses can file a 1099. That's not my understanding of how 1099s are done, because I want you to think about it. All of the monies and everything that you have paid to all of the corporations that you do business with on a personal level throughout the year should be reported to the IRS. It should be reported, because what's happening is most of the monies that you're paying, if you do not report to the IRS, they consider that a gift. So let's say, for instance, you go to Walmart every week and you buy groceries at Walmart. So you mean to tell me the money that you spend at Walmart is not supposed to be reported to the IRS as taxable income to Walmart? No, that's not true. The IRS wants you to report so that they can go and get taxes that are due to them. They want you to report. So that is definitely a misconception out there about the fact that only businesses can file 1099. If you were to go to the IRS code, you will see that it's just income being reported from one entity to another. The SS individual is a corporate entity, is it not? It's not you. It's a separate fictional entity. So that entity can file 1099s.
That is correct. And that's the thing. There's a lot of false information out here. And if you're one of those individuals who's never worked in the financial industry and all your knowledge comes from Google, and
Yeah.
everything that comes out of your mouth is suspect.
Yeah.
And I would never advise anyone to listen to what you said because you got your information from Google.
Mm,
So you have to have a different
gotta be
perspective
careful.
and you have to be connected with the right people. It's all about your circle. If you have
Hmm.
no circle and
Yes.
you rely on Google,
Mm,
you're not going to get too far. You're not
yeah.
going to get too far. So it's going to be very important for you to understand how you have to, who you have to be around, who
Yeah.
you circulate with.
Yep.
If you're the smartest person in your circle is worth nothing. Find another circle where you are the least intelligent person so you can learn
Yep.
from the right circle of people.
That's the key.
And we
And
have a private
whew,
network. That private network, listen, I told you, if you file a bankruptcy, there's a document that you can file with your bankruptcy that will pay all of your debt off. Everyone in the private network knows this,
mm-hmm,
but you don't know this.
mm.
So if you don't know this, that the reason you don't know it is because of your circle.
Yeah, I'm happy that I'm not the smartest person in my circle. I always keep my learning cap on. I never think that I know everything. I'm still a sponge even to this day. I am still a sponge, and I will remain a sponge up until I leave up out of here. So we just got to be smarter. We have to be willing to learn. Um, we really, really, really have to be smarter. All right, so we got another question here. And thank you all again for putting your questions in the chat. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And do not forget to share this podcast out to those people who you think will benefit. All right?
Anybody that has a mortgage, they need to know this.
Yes.
Anybody who's thinking about purchasing a home, they need to know this before they go to purchase a home.
Yes, yes. And listen, not only do they need to know this about the mortgage process, there are some other things that people need to be made aware of that we discuss in our private network, right? So it's going to benefit people all the way around. If you all are looking to get things done, you're looking to deal with your individual accounts, now is going to be the time for you to connect with us. All right. Now is the time. You don't want to wait. I know it can be kind of scary connecting with new people, coming into a private network because you don't know what to expect from the outside looking in. But you're gonna wanna pray about it and develop a system where you can make reasonably informed decisions based on the information that you're receiving. All right. I know it's a lot of misinformation out there, but you got to be able to identify when the Most High is sending you information that is not what you usually hear. All right. When your ears are perking up, that's a sign. So we have another question. The question is, can you still recover funds for deceased parents when you are the authorized rep for their estate? All right.
All right. So,
You want to take it? You want me to take it? What you want to do?
uh, well, my first question to you is, which estate are you referring to? There's more than one estate.
Yes, there is.
And if you're talking about the public estate, it may be depleted. There may be nothing there. Most likely there's nothing there.
Mm.
But there's a private estate. Now, if you know how and what to do, you can claim a private estate, and that is very beneficial for you and your family. Because if you're referring to uh, a deceased parent, Scripture says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
Yes.
So that private estate could be left for his grandchildren, which would be your children. So there's a private estate there for your parents. They didn't claim it. You can go back and claim your parents' private estate.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you should do that. You're supposed to do that, and have it there for the benefit of yourself or benefit of your children or your grandchildren. So yes, you can go ahead. You can tap into that one.
Absolutely. Think about it. Just because your loved one is deceased does not mean that there are not still values circulating out there. All right. They're still monetizing. If you place yourself in the right position, you can do some things. You can do some things, but it's going to require an elevation. You gotta elevate yourself. Oh my goodness, when you have the proper status, the world is your playground, folks. It really is your playground. And when you study enough, you can come up with different strategic maneuvers that will allow you to go out here and do things. One of which is to claim the interest and values associated with the deceased individual's estate. All right. So, but you got to elevate yourself. You got to elevate your understanding, and you got to set yourself up like a business and be organized and be ready to learn and ready to study. Doing what we do takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of sacrifice and studying, right? And so in this, you really have to know who you are. You have to know what your weaknesses are. You have to know what your strengths are. And you have to have the ability to endure. This is not a game and it's not a joke. All right. And so, in terms of joining the private network, um, first, what you all are going to want to do is tap into the Wednesday call. We have a Wednesday call that's going to be coming up this week, actually. So, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I will drop the link in the chat for you all to get registered. It's a free call. Just go ahead and get registered. Some of you may already be in there. I see a couple of familiar names here in the live chat. So, some of you have already been registered. So what I'm going to do now is I will go ahead and drop the link and the information for the call in the chat. We have a 5-part series. We are actually going to be on part number. Are we on 4?
Today's 3, 4 tomorrow.
No. The call coming up on Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday.
Wednesday is part 4 because we only got 2 weeks left. There's 2 sessions left. Yep, 2 sessions left. All right, so this is the What is True Status Correction 5-part series. This is what we've been working on for the last 3 weeks, right? We're getting into this is week number 4. All right, and so we're covering what true status correction is. This is what we're covering. What true status correction is, because people really need to know. There's a misconception about what it is. And let me tell you, if you are using their laws, their codes, and their statutes, that ain't true status correction, folks. It's just not. I'm just here to let you know. It's not true status correction. It's just not. because you are literally using the tools and the resources associated with the very jurisdiction that you're saying that you're not a part of. That's not going to work. You can't go to the slave master and ask for relief. You got to come in with the higher rank from the slave master to get your remedy. All right. And so this is what we've been talking about. So let's see, I'm about to drop it in the chat in just a moment here. I'm just trying to clean it up, and you all should be able to register using this link. Okay. So let me just do this. I got to clean it up because it only gives you so many characters that you can drop in the chat. Okay. Let's see here. We're going to do it like this. I'm going to do it just like this. Okay. All right, there you go. You all should be able to click the link. You should be able to click the link and register. If you have not registered for the Wednesday call, we have 2 more weeks left. This coming Wednesday, the call is going to be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. You're definitely going to want to be on the call and be on time. Log in at least 5 to 10 minutes early. All right, 5 to 10 minutes early. And, we're going to get into some things. This week's topic is going to be the difference between nationality and status. A lot of people get that confused. Ooh, they get it confused. They don't know the difference. They don't know the difference. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to dissect it. All right. So you definitely want to be a part. So if you have not already registered, go ahead and register for this week's Wednesday's call. And so on the call, because I see people are asking about joining the network. On the call, we're going to get into how do you come into our private network. We will discuss that on Wednesday on the call because we have to be in a private setting. We don't want to talk about that on this particular platform, but at least you can come in and join the call and you can be part of the conversation. And you're absolutely right. This is not an overnight process. He says people have been studying for 10 years and still have more to learn. This is so, so true. All right.
Yeah, I've been learning since '94,
Yeah.
and everything that you went through, that you've gone through, I've already gone through it.
Yeah.
I've gone through it, and I've gotten to the dead end, and then I decided I was going to give up, and then but the Most High Father would not allow me to give up because I've seen too much
Yes.
working inside the financial industry.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking through a window and you're looking into the financial industry through a window, you can only see so much. You're limited on what you can see.
Yes.
That means you have to rely outside of the financial industry for your knowledge and information.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are working on the inside and you see everything that's going on, all you have to do is just line up what you see on the outside because you already know what the truth is.
Yes.
You know what the truth of the matter is. It's already right in front of you. You're working on this stuff. You see what's going on. Lenders don't loan you any money on a car, on a house. They're too greedy for that. They're getting all their money from you because what? You are the money.
Yes.
And you're just prostituting yourself out there to every lender pimp out there. The car lender pimp, the mortgage lender pimp, they are pimping you.
Not the lender pimp.
The lender pimp is pimping you. That means you're the prostitute.
Oh my goodness, that's funny, not funny. It's like painful funny. You know how, oh my goodness, you want to laugh, but you really can't laugh because it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening to me.
Yeah. You are the prostitute. The lender pimp has pimped you again. Sheesh. And every time you open up an account and put your name on there, a blank endorsement, a name with no title, just a blank endorsement, they get to do whatever they want to do, and they will rake you across the coals, drag you across the coals, and do whatever. And here you are suffering and suffering and suffering. And, the Bible says, my children suffer for lack of knowledge. So you're suffering every single day, donating, let me say this word, donating Federal Reserve notes to all these companies because you're not paying the debt. You're just donating to them. And that's what they tell the IRS. Oh, it was a donation. Because you never told the IRS your side of the story.
You didn't file your forms and report the taxable income that you paid to them that they should be paying taxes on.
So it's called a donation to your utility company.
That's a gift. It's a gift.
And they said thank you.
Right.
They said
They
thank you.
said, thank you very much, please. Thank you. Oh my goodness, it's just insane. So yeah, so I mean, we can go on and on and on. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. But listen, we are at the end of our segment. Money matters. Thank you so much. You are such a pleasant guest. I appreciate you coming on the platform and talking with me with the people because they really just need to know what's going on, right? So
Yeah.
listen, I hope and pray that you all have registered for Wednesday's call. I hope and pray that you all have registered for the call for this coming Wednesday. All right. If not, go ahead and click the link and get registered. Definitely for those that come back and watch the replay, drop a like on the channel. Because we want to keep the engagement rates up for the channel. You do want us to come back and do more podcasts, right? I know you all want us to come back. So show the channel some love so that we can come back, okay? But just know that the best work that we are doing for our people will be in the private. They say that the revolution will not be televised, and they are absolutely right because the movers and shakers is happening in the private. What we're talking about in our private network is just simply not being discussed out there. So you have to, that's one of the clear indications. And when you see people out here talking about certain things in the public, that's not it. That's not it. Because if they can openly speak certain things in the public, they are literally telling you what they have. And that is one way that you can be discerning with information that you pull in. Right? All right, everybody. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight on episode 3 of the Truth of the Matter 5-part series podcast. We appreciate your participation and the love that you showed to the channel. You got any final thoughts?
Well, just look forward to the next podcast
Yeah.
because if you have any questions, submit the questions. We'll see the questions.
Yeah.
We'll address those questions on the next podcast.
Yes.
At the front of the podcast, we'll address those questions.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. We hope this information was beneficial to you, and we will see you all in the next episode. Peace and love, everyone.
Peace
Peace
and
and
love.
love.